This fella right here, this is the guy we're going to be talking about on the right here. Honestly, he looks pretty snazzy to me. He is snazzy as snazzy gets. But he's a monster, so don't get too excited. The next article I wanted to look at is titled Prophet Jeff Jansen Says Trump Will Be Back in Office by June. This is on rightwingwatch.org by Kyle Mantilla. But this isn't the only article I wanted to look at about this subject. So it turns out there are a bunch of prophets talking about Trump being back in office by June, some crazier than others. So I wanted to look at just this one guy, and after that we're going to look at this other dude, Dave Hayes, both of whom claim to be prophets, both of whom claim that God told them personally that Trump is going to be president again soon. Not in 2024, before that. In 2021, Trump is going to be president. So let's give this article a read about Jeff Jansen and see what it says. Jeff Jansen, a self-proclaimed prophet who leads Global Fire Ministries International in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, appeared on the Elijah Streams YouTube program last Thursday, where he asserted that, contrary to all appearances, Joe Biden is not our president, and prophesied Donald Trump will be back in the White House by June at the latest. Jansen was among the various prophets who guaranteed that Trump would win the 2020 election and serve a second term. Despite the fact that that obviously didn't happen, Jansen remains adamant that he will soon be proven accurate. Yeah, I've been talking about all of these prophets that, made these claims about Trump making a comeback at the White House and all that other stuff. But I feel like I've been underselling it because I've only talked about a few of them. Like I talked about Johnny Enlow and Kat Kerr and Robin something. I don't remember the guy's name. There were only a few that I've talked about, okay? But there are so many. There are like practically hundreds. And they're not nobodies. They're well-known prophets or prophets. They're well-known Christians. They're well-known pastors. And as I said earlier, there are about 82 million evangelicals in the United States. It is believed to be the largest religious demographic in the U.S. So let's pull this clip up and watch what Jeff Jansen had to say about it.
There was an inauguration. He put his hand on a Bible, or a supposed Bible. Someone said it's upside down. I don't know if it was, but they put a hand on a Bible.
Now, let's just pause here for a second. This is Steve Schultz on the left side. He runs the ElijahList.com website, and he runs the Elijah Streams YouTube channel. He's always talking to these prophets, quote unquote, these Christians and these QAnon supporters and stuff, these evangelical pastors. I thought what he was saying here about the Bible being upside down, I thought he was referring to Trump holding up that Bible at Lafayette Square. You guys remember that? He cleared out Lafayette Square and he went to that church and he held up the Bible for that photo op and people said it was upside down. Turns out it was not. The Bible that Trump held at Lafayette Square, that's misinformation. It wasn't held upside down. But I thought that's what Steve Schultz was talking about, was Trump holding up the Bible upside down, which he didn't do. No, he's saying Biden at his inauguration supposedly held a Bible upside down. What? You can look at the video of the inauguration and tell if that's true or not. And why does it even matter? Why does it matter if it was upside down? It wasn't upside down, for the record. Anyways, let's keep listening to the clip.
Someone said it's upside down. I don't know if it was, but they put a hand on a Bible, said the right words, and now people say, okay, now he's our president. Now we have to pray for our president.
Okay, so that's the interesting thing about America. We have very strong institutions, surprisingly strong institutions, right? That ceremony ultimately means nothing, really. It doesn't mean anything. It's just like, a ceremony where people kind of walk through the procedure, and that's what this means at the end of it, right? But people really respect that. When Biden was certified by all of the states on, I think, December 14th, that's really what sealed the deal. That's when he was elected president, ultimately. When all of the states certified and the votes were counted. When the votes were counted by Congress on January 6th, that was just affirming once again. It was a ceremony, but it was affirming that he is, in fact, the president. The Constitution says on January 20th at noon, he becomes the president. So I guess technically that little ceremony that he does with the Bible, putting his hand on it and swearing his oath or whatever, that isn't the thing that makes him president, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe that's a requirement. But at noon, he was president, period. That's just what it is, whether you like that fact or not.
We have to pray for our president.
No, he's not our president.
Sorry, man. He just is. I know you don't like that. And guess what? I didn't like it when Trump was elected. I was not a huge fan of that. Thought the guy was going to be a monster. And guess what? He turned out to be. But he was the president for 4 years. Whether I liked that or not doesn't matter. Whether you like this or not, Biden is president. I'm sorry.
He is not, nor will he ever be. And everybody knows there was a red tidal wave. There was a Red Sea moment, which is a red tidal wave. And quite frankly, America voted in Donald J. Trump.
No. Why? What gives you this idea? I don't understand. Where are you getting this from? Where is all of this coming from? We counted the votes and know for a fact Biden won. We can even tell you how many he won by. Before this election, I didn't have a strong idea of how secure the U.S. election process is. There are some ways in which the U.S. election process is nearly impossible to cheat. If you're going to cheat in a U.S. election, you're not going to do it by faking votes or by, ripping up signatures or sending in fake ballots. That's not the entry point you're going to use. It's not a good entry point. It's an almost impossible way to cheat in a U.S. election. You can't add more votes in. It's not set up to be the easiest way to do it. If you were going to try to cheat in an election, your best bet would be to set up a whole gerrymandering system, a bunch of voter suppression systems, close polling locations in traditionally blue districts, and open more in red districts, things like that. But counting the votes and adding more ballots in, adding in fake ones, that's just not how it would be done. It's not really possible to do it that way. Bitcoin and U.S. voting share common concepts of security. And that's why when you hear Bitcoin was hacked, it's not that somebody figured out how Bitcoin works and just added 1,000 Bitcoin to their own wallets. It doesn't work that way. It's always about somebody taking Bitcoin from somewhere else and putting it in their own wallet or scamming people in some way or another. They both work off of signature verification, both of them. It might be possible to do, but it would be so complicated, you could only do it a few times, maybe. Not enough to change an election. That's not the direction that any cheater would want to go. They would find other ways to do it. But bizarrely, Trump picked the most improbable methods of cheating and claimed that's what was happening. Lucky for us, those are fairly easy to disprove. Those claims were debunked a long time ago. But as we're finding out, if you scream something at the top of your lungs for long enough, people just start to believe it, sadly. Anyway, let's keep listening to this dude.
Quite frankly, America voted in Donald J. Trump. President Trump is president. We will be rejoicing in the streets by March, April, May, June.
Why did he pick March? Why was that the starting point he picked? Why didn't he say April? Why didn't he say October instead? Why didn't he say the end of February? The reason is because in the QAnon belief system, they believe that Trump is going to be inaugurated as the 19th president of the United States on March 4th, 2021. It gets a little bit convoluted, so I'm going to do my best to explain it. Basically, in 1937, I think, the U.S. passed the 20th Amendment to the Constitution, right? And with that passage of the new amendment, the inauguration day was changed. Up until 1937, it had been March 4th the entire time, except for like the very first inauguration, maybe. I think that was like in April or something. So the idea is that after the Civil War, the U.S. government was replaced with a corporation. It's a conspiracy theory. There isn't basically any fact to be found in here. But when the U.S. government was replaced with that corporation, quote unquote, that's when the U.S. government basically ceased to exist. So the belief is that the U.S. has only had 18 presidents. The 18th president was Ulysses S. Grant, right after Abraham Lincoln, right after the Civil War ended. And that's when Ulysses S. Grant was elected. So in the QAnon belief system, the idea is that Trump will be inaugurated on March 4th as the 19th president of the real United States, not the corporation, but the real thing. It's obviously complete and total bullshit, and there isn't fact to be found in here. But that's why this guy picked March. He said,
by March, April, May, June.
We'll be cheering in the streets by March, April, May, June. That's what he said. That's why he picked March. Let's keep listening.
There's going to be an amazing turnaround. You just watch what happens. And the world will rejoice. Not just America, the world will rejoice because of this exposure. And so I'm telling you, that's going to take place. That I'm going down with the ship on this. The Lord showed me this.
Why the self-immolation? Why do they continue to make baseless claim after baseless claim? Do they really believe this shit? Do they really believe that it's going to play out the way that they're saying it is? They must know that it's going to end in tears, right? Why do they keep making bullshit claims so confidently? Why? As far as I know, even Q, the poster that started and runs the QAnon movement, has stopped posting. Why do they continue to do this shit to themselves? I do not get it. Now I'm actually curious. I'm wondering if Q has posted. Yeah, I just checked. Q has not posted anything since December 8th. And when he posted that, it was just like a link to a YouTube video. It was some dude singing or something. Before that, it was November 13th, immediately after the election, and he just said Durham, Q. That's it. So Q is dead. I mean, the guy, the poster, he is no more. He hasn't posted in forever. In fact, last I heard, just a rumor, not verified, Q was trying to sell the QAnon account to somebody for $1 million. I don't know how true it is. Who knows? It probably isn't true. It's just what I heard. But Q has given up. But the QAnon movement lives on through this guy and through hundreds of pastors, thousands of pastors who are true believers. It's really fucking sad to see, honestly. So there's another guy who goes by the name of Dave Hayes. He was talking about the QAnon movement a little bit too. So let's give this article a read and see what it says. It's by Kyle Mantilla on rightwingwatch.org. Title is Dave Hayes Says God Will Compel the Military to Remove Biden from Office. So let's read it. Dave Hayes, a self-declared prophet, Christian author, and leading QAnon activist, who's better known as the Praying Medic. Why do they always have these weird nicknames? Praying Medic, the Firefighter Prophet. It's just really, really weird. Has been rather quiet ever since former President Donald Trump left office. Likely because none of the bold predictions Hayes made about Trump arresting and executing his political enemies ever came true. Must be an embarrassing situation to be in. Despite the fact that Trump is now out of office and the QAnon movement is falling apart, Hayes continues to keep the faith, posting a video on Rumble Wednesday in which he predicted that God will soon force the military to remove President Joe Biden from office. If you guys are unfamiliar with Rumble, they're basically a competitor to YouTube. They sued YouTube, or I think they sued Google recently, claiming that they were favoring their service, YouTube, over other services like Rumble. I think they probably have a case, but I don't know. I guess we'll let it play out. Anyways, it's a video sharing website. Let's keep reading. Hayes dismissed a recent video of retired General Michael Flynn, who has long been a hero to QAnon conspiracy theorists, saying that the various conspiracy theories posted by QAnon supporters about plans by the military to reinstate Trump to office are nonsense, and flatly declaring that there's no plan. Wow. I didn't actually know Flynn was saying that. That's kind of a surprise, because Michael Flynn has been a big supporter of the QAnon movement. I wonder if he was just a big supporter of QAnon so that he could get Donald Trump to pardon him. I don't know. Just speculation. So anyways, there's a video of this guy, David Hayes, talking about the situation. I figured we'd give it a watch.
Some people have heard the interview with General Flynn, where General Flynn said that there is no plan for the military to step in. I was listening to Monkey Works, and he interviewed a guy a couple days ago. And that guy also said there is no plan for the military to step in and do anything.
Doesn't get clearer than that, right? Seems pretty fucking clear to me. The hero of your movement says there's no plan, give it up and go home. And what do they think about that?
Well, I would like to suggest an alternative viewpoint on that.
Love it. Let's have that alternative viewpoint. I'm excited. Bated breath over here.
If the military had a plan to intervene in American politics, and General Flynn was aware of it, I guarantee you he wouldn't tell anybody what he knew publicly.
Okay. Interesting. That's an interesting perspective on that. But he didn't have an issue with it up until now. Up until this very moment. He was talking about where we go one, we go all, which is a dog whistle for QAnon supporters. He was saying that Trump has a plan and trust the plan, and he's saying all this other QAnon bullshit to get them all revved up until this moment. And now he's changed his mind. Now he doesn't want to dog whistle. He wants to be secretive about it. What changed? Why does he suddenly want to be secretive where he wasn't secretive in any way, shape, or form up until this very moment? Do you think maybe there's a possibility there just isn't a fucking plan? Did you ever consider that as a possibility?
I guarantee you he wouldn't tell anybody what he knew publicly for operational security.
For operational security. You've got to be fucking kidding me. So the dude didn't give a shit about operational security up until this very moment, but suddenly he does. When it all looks completely hopeless for you. These people are going to they're going to get smacked in the face by reality at some point. I thought for sure that it would have happened by now, but I guess they're still living in delusion land. There's another clip from this guy. Let's hear what else he had to say.
We're getting to a point where the military, I don't think, is going to have a choice but to step in. And I'm not going to go any further into that other than to say I think the military will be compelled to step in. Sort of like if you...
I love it how he's wording it as though he has some special knowledge, some secretive information that he doesn't feel comfortable sharing with anybody publicly right now. He doesn't want to go further into it right now. Let's just say that the military won't have a choice. Let's just say they won't have a choice, okay? Not getting into it right now.
Be compelled to step in. Sort of like if you've read how in the Old Testament, God would draw a king into battle against another king. Even though that king wouldn't necessarily want to get into that battle, God has a way of making it happen. I think even if the military is not interested in getting involved in this whole Joe Biden administration, I think God is going to make it so that they don't have a choice.
Why are they so convinced that God gives a shit about American politics? What is it about them that makes them think they are so fucking special, and the country that they live in and their political leaders are so fucking special? Why do they think they're so important? Wouldn't you think God would care a lot more about what's happening in the Middle East? Like, that's where his chosen people lived for, century or millennia. Why suddenly America? What has given you that idea? Okay, let me tell you guys this off the record. I say as I'm live streaming to thousands of people. I've been getting hit pretty hard by YouTube lately with demonetization and, all that other shit. They hit me pretty hard with some cat cur videos I put out and some other recent ones about these pastors, and I started evaluating what was going on. They said that I was harassing or targeting a protected group or some other thing like that. Now, as far as I know, I didn't know that I didn't know that prophets of God were a protected class. But you know what? I went through the videos that they've been hitting in good faith to see if they're right. And I feel, to some degree, YouTube is correct. I have been attacking the people personally rather than the ideas. So I'm trying really hard not to do that anymore. I feel like that's bad faith, saying they're delusional and they need mental help and things like that. I do believe that they're delusional, and I do believe they need therapists, but I've decided I'm going to try to avoid that type of rhetoric and language in the future because I don't like that kind of rhetoric being used on anybody. So in good faith, I feel like we have an issue that needs to be solved, and I hope that we can find some way as a society to bring people like this pastor, bring them back into wider society, and kind of mend fences, build bridges, and find common ground, rather than him sitting here for the next 6 months convinced that Trump is going to take office again. Like, I don't even know what to do about that.